So, doing violence causes trauma. Perpetrating violence causes trauma. The person hurting the other person is traumatized. It's kind of strange, isn't it? You might not think of it this way. So, to be clear, what I'm saying is someone who inflicts violence, whether it's in a war or abuse or whatever, is also traumatizing themselves. Now, you might say, am I excusing the behaviour? No, absolutely not, whatever it is. I'm not saying even we should even feel sorry for this person, but certainly to understand this. The reason this is so important to understand, aside from just compassion, is that it keeps the cycle. There's a vicious cycle of trauma. So when we're traumatized, we numb in the body. Yeah. So the response to trauma, one of the definitions of trauma, one of the ways it happens is we numb ourselves. So unfortunately, that means we don't feel ourselves. It means we don't feel empathy, which means doing more violence is more likely. Now, it's not to say everyone who's been traumatized is a psychopath or is not empathic, but when that's combined, that numbness is combined with, say, a hyperarousal, which is like your adrenal glands are stuck in kind of fight or flight mode. That might be like quick to be irritated or to be angry or whatever. Yeah, that's really dangerous combination. So this is why hurt people, which in itself is a big insight, right? That's really important to understand. I'm in Israel right now. I've worked in Russia, I've worked in Sierra Leone, Ethiopia, slums of Brazil, Ukraine recently. And when you're in those places, you have to understand that that combination of numbing of emotions of the body and therefore of empathy plus hyperarousal is very dangerous in and of itself, can lead to some less than ideal behaviour. So that's the first thing to understand these kind of places and the cycles that people can be in. But even just doing trauma will actually have that same effect. So if we look at a culture like Britain, where I'm from, my family are Irish and British, or the United States, obviously very much in the news at the moment with the elections, the massive amounts of violence that have been perpetrated. If you think of the United States, there was this genocide of Native Americans. Some say up to 100 million over the course of a couple of hundred years. It's hard to know numbers, but certainly one of the largest genocides in human history. Then we have slavery, which wasn't, it wasn't just like a bunch of people doing work. That was a massive genocide as well. The number of people that were killed and also raped and beaten and all the rest of it. And then we've had all the wars the Americans have fought. So the Americans are currently bombing 7 different countries. Now, and it's fascinating, there's actually studies on this. Even a drone operator who's, I don't know, in Virginia or in New York or wherever, there's large amounts of PTSD that these guys are suffering. Now, no one's ever shooting at them. They're looking at a computer screen and bombing other people. But to do that day in, day out also creates a numbing. Yeah, now, again, phenomenal fact not a lot of people know, the reason the gas chambers were invented by the Germans was because German soldiers were getting traumatized shooting Jews. Crazy, listen to this. So the first, I think it was about 500,000 to 1 million Jews that were killed by the Nazis, was in Ukraine, Russia, places like that. There was something called the Holocaust by bullets. They filled an entire valley, like imagine that, a valley with dead bodies. They filled it. And what happened was the Germans shoot someone, shoot someone, shoot someone. And all, they weren't being attacked themselves, just shooting people, bam, bam, lining them up, type of a horrible thing. And now, of course, do I feel sorry for the Nazis? Well, a bit, but not that much. But it was very interesting that those people were traumatized doing the shooting. Therefore, they decided to make a more humane way of killing people, not because they want to be humane to the Jews, but to the Germans that were involved in the killing. Yeah. So doing violence traumatizes people. This is what you don't understand, that even if you're on the winning side, the victor, you're the one in the aeroplane dropping bombs on Yemen, or dropping bombs on Somalia, or dropping bombs on Libya, or wherever it is, you're still getting traumatized, and that has a consequence which you then bring home. So a soldier who goes, say he's a sniper in Iraq or in Syria or whatever, shoots a bunch of people, comes back with trauma from the violence they have committed. So committing violence causes trauma. This is the wages of this. This is when we send the sort of subtle glorification of soldiers that I see sort of hanging out. We're sending people to be traumatized, even if they're kept relatively safe and there's low levels of casualties, and that is going to have an impact on our societies when they come home. When they come home traumatized and their relationships are shattered, and they're bringing this traumatized way of being back to life. So really worth understanding to understand cycles of trauma. When we look at, say, the American population right now, how Russia votes, all these things, we need to, on a macro level, we should understand that doing trauma affects people as much as being traumatized by others.